Puss in Boots by Lucy Pack and Doug Draper. There once was a farmer who was very old and very sick. He had 3 sons, but not very much to leave them after he passed on. He left his farm to his eldest son, the farm animals to his middle son, and the family cat to Paul, his youngest son. Paul was not pleased with his share. He explained to his brothers, "If you pull your shares together, you can make a decent living. What can I make with a cat?" Little did Paul know that the cat, Seymour, was listening. After coming up with a grand plan, Seymour approached Paul and said, "If you could just loan me a pair of boots and a drawstring bag, I will show you that I am actually quite useful." Paul suddenly remembered how he had watched this clever cat catch many a mouse, and decided such a clever cat must really have a grand plan. He found a pair of boots to keep Seymour's feet dry and safe. Then he gave Seymour a drawstring bag filled with carrots. Seymour went far into the woods where rabbits were known to live, and lay on the ground as if he were dead. As soon as Seymour closed his eyes, a foolish rabbit jumped right into the bag full of carrots, only to be trapped inside. Seymour was very proud of his catch. He immediately took the prize to the king and explained that it was a gift from his master, a very wealthy and important lord. The king noticed Seymour's boots and decided that such a fine hunter in such fine boots must really belong to a wealthy and important lord. Seymour repeated this for many months, each time bringing the king a new treat from his master, and each time making Paul seem much grander than he really was. One day, when Seymour knew the king would be sailing with his daughter, he convinced Paul to go for a swim in the lake. Just as the king and his daughter sailed by, Seymour cried out, "Help! Help! My master is drowning!" The king recognized Seymour as the cat who brought him many cherished gifts and rushed over to help. As they pulled Paul out of the water, the princess noticed how handsome he was and urged her father to give Paul a ride home. With his plan going along smoothly, Seymour told the king that Paul lived in a castle a few miles away. Seymour also told the king that he wouldn't want to track muddy boots all over the king's lovely carriage, so he could meet them at Paul's castle. Meanwhile, Seymour ran as fast as he could in order to get to the castle first. Seymour knew that an ogre lived in the castle, and that this was a magic ogre who could turn himself into any animal imaginable. Seymour entered the castle and begged the ogre to show him his powers. The ogre was very fond of showing off his magic. After turning himself into a great many things, Seymour suggested the ogre turn himself into a mouse. Just as the ogre morphed into a mouse, Seymour snatched him up and ate him. Right then, the king, the princess, and Paul arrived. The group was enjoying a lovely evening at the castle when Seymour began to feel guilty about lying to such a kind king. He told the king about the death of Paul's father and how they were desperate to make a living like Paul's brothers. Seymour told the king about catching the rabbits, the drowning, and finally about the ogre. While the king was very upset that he had been lied to, he greatly appreciated Seymour finally telling the truth. The king was also so impressed with Seymour's desire to take care of Paul that he invited them to come live with him and his daughter in the palace.